Hello, Georgetown. I'm Beverly Enos, and you're watching Spotlight Georgetown. This is your cable TV station. The money that pays for this does not come out of the town budget. It comes out of your cable TV bill. So come on down and use it. We have cameras and we have lots of really cool equipment. And if you'd like to come and be part of it, just let me know. If you'd like to come and be on the show in the hot seat, let me know. Because I'm always looking for people in Georgetown to be interviewed. Now, today we're talking to Chief Donald Cudmore. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
And I say that just because I've known you since you were a kid. So
I know that.
And I was a kid. So you're from town.
I am. My family moved from Salem in 1969 to Georgetown, and interesting enough, my family from Salem thought we were moving to the other side of the world. Back then, when you moved that far north, and today it's just a 20 to 30 minute commute, and it was the best thing that my parents ever did for us at the time. So I'm very fortunate that they did that for us.
Yeah, we were from Winchester, and when we started coming to Georgetown, 95 wasn't in, so you had to come up the old Route 1.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a long hike. It was an hour and a half. And now, shoo, now you have family here.
I do. I've lived in Georgetown most of my life, and I'm married to Ruth Ann, who works at the high school. We've been married for 26 years, and we have two beautiful daughters, one who's 18, attending Salem State University, and our youngest is 16, and she attends Georgetown High.
Okay, so not quite a born here townie.
No,
but about as close as you can get.
Right, about 45 years, and I always joke with some of my older friends in Georgetown that I don't know what it takes to be a townie. Maybe when I get to that 50th year, maybe I can say I'm a townie. So
yeah, my dad is pretty much considered a townie.
Exactly.
He's been here for a long time. Now, before you became chief, you were on the police department, but you served on some other boards in town, didn't you?
Yes, I volunteered in the town since I've been able to, actually, since I've been 18 years old. And I started on the police department in 1985 when I was 20 years old, and then eventually became a full-time officer after coming out of college. I serve on the CIP today. I've served on the school committee. I've served on many volunteer boards. I'm a softball coach for the GAA, and I was actually honored enough to coach the varsity softball team last year as an assistant. So that was probably a very rewarding thing for me, because my daughter was also on the team, so that was a rare situation, and I was thankful to get the chance.
Did you play sports in high school?
I did. I always called myself a C athlete. I played football and baseball. Better baseball player than a football player, but I did. And I attended Georgetown High, as did my wife.
Okay, so you're pretty close to being a townie.
Well, actually, I went to school in this building. I started in the basement of this building, and then when Pembroke School was built, ironically, the opening was, the groundbreaking was yesterday. It's sad to see the building go, since after I attended school here in Town Hall, we were, I believe, the second class to attend over at the Pembroke. So great times for the town moving on to get a nice new building, but it's sad to see the old one go.
Yeah, yeah. Now, your educational path from when you left Georgetown High School to today.
Well, as I said, I attended Georgetown High, and graduated and went to Salem State University. It was Salem State College then. And when I graduated from there, I was on the police department, and then also obtained my master's degree from Anna Maria College. And then I recently, 2 years ago, attended the FBI National Academy, and I was able to achieve some postgraduate certificates there while I was in Quantico, Virginia.
Okay, that sounds like scary stuff.
No, it was a great experience. I thank the town for supporting me. It was a 12-week venture living down in Quantico, and only less than 1% of law enforcement executives ever get to attend the National Academy. So I was nominated and received a blessing from the Board of Selectmen to go, and the town supported me. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, something that not a lot of people get to do.
I was actually the first officer from Georgetown to do it. So.
Oh, great.
I was excited.
Yeah. They knew you were going to high places.
I guess so.
Your work history.
My work history. I started on the PD when I was 20 years old, so I mean I did the regular jobs that any kid does, working in all the businesses here in Georgetown. I was on the fire department for a very brief time, with the mission actually to get on the police department. I served under then Chief Nagel on the fire department, and he knew that, but he was very supportive. And then when I made the transition to the police department, I worked in a part-time capacity, also working for Travelers Insurance Company at the time once I graduated from high school. And I had to make a choice whether I was going into law enforcement or I was going to take that corporate route, and obviously the law enforcement route won.
We were talking a little earlier, you were the paper boy for where I lived.
Yes, I was your parents' paper boy on Lakeshore Drive. So again, I think I have been around a little while.
Yeah.
And I grew up on Hamilton Terrace, so that was my stomping grounds when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids in Georgetown, they then worked at the drugstore or the grocery store or someplace.
I worked at all of them, and I worked at the gas stations. I worked at what is now Crosby's. It was Harvest Market back then.
Yep.
There were a couple of gas station locations I worked in, but starting on the PD at 20, that really changed my life as far as what I was going to do. And even on the police department, I worked for the building supply for 5 or 6 years while my wife was home taking care of the kids. I needed another job, so the building supply was kind enough to take me on. So I was able to kind of go back to that type of work, and it was probably one of the funnest jobs I've had.
Yeah, because you knew everybody coming in
and out. I knew
out.
everybody, yep. And I learned a lot too, which was nice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now, how did you get started on the police department? What's the process of becoming a police officer in Georgetown?
Well, I think it's a lot more complicated today than when I did it. You know, as a youngster, as I call myself now, as I call my new officers at 20 years old, the most important part today is education. I think that when students and folks come in and they want to know how to become a police officer, I think you need to focus on getting your college education first, and then getting onto the practicality of becoming a police officer. And for people in my day of getting on the police department, it was really just continually applying and hoping for openings, because there was a lot of movement then. Today, it's more professionalized. People are staying. The average age on the police department on the full-time staff is about 50 years old. I mean, we have people there. No one has really served, except for the 2 new folks we hired, any less than 25 years.
Wow.
There was a lot of movement back in the day, but today it's professional. So I always tell students to stay in school, get your education, and then at that point decide what particular agency you would like to work for, because I mean the Commonwealth and New Hampshire offers many places, large cities, small towns, rural areas, and you need to determine what your forte is to see where you want to settle down.
To see what the fit will be.
Exactly.
You are, I was checking with my dad, you are the 6th police chief that we have known since we've lived in Georgetown. And for a few years, the chiefs were just changing.
Yes.
There was a big turnover of chiefs until Chief Spencer. He was probably the one here the longest.
Yep, and he hired me. And then 10 years ago, Chief Mulligan was his replacement. And we had a great 10 years under the chief's command, and we've flourished. And my hope is to do the same thing, to leave some type of legacy of making the police department better than when it was given to me.
Now, what are the biggest challenges as a chief?
I think living in Georgetown, obviously, I think is the biggest attribute of being the chief, but it is the biggest challenge, because everything that can happen to people I know, my family, my friends, all of the residents in Georgetown, there isn't too many people that I don't know, either directly or indirectly. My wife working at the high school, my children. When I see bad things happen to folks that live in Georgetown, our residents, it is a challenge for me. I do take it personally if it's something that I could have done or could have helped them not have any type of incident or tragedy happen to them, and it weighs heavy on me. So I would consider that my biggest challenge. In larger communities where the chief doesn't live there, or the population is so large, people in numbers, but here in Georgetown, you know, the people who live in Georgetown are real to me, so I take it very seriously when they have problems.
Yeah, and that's I was affiliated with the police department for a committee that I worked on for a while. Mm-hmm. And when you recognize the person in the name of what was happening, it was like, you know, why her or why him?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like least about the job as chief?
What do I like least? I think that the challenges of societal changes. Society today is very complicated, and things change every day, and you have to be on the top of your game, and you have to have your officers be on the top of their game, because what was okay yesterday may not be okay today. And when society changes, whether it's conservative beliefs or liberal beliefs, we as the police department cannot get involved in that. Our job is to enforce the law. So the ever-changing environment of Massachusetts general law is probably what challenges me too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a kind way to say it. It's just that, you know, things change, and I think the older we get, we don't like change. That's what people have told me, and I tend to start to agree with them now. In that we as the police department, though, we have to ensure that we can adapt to that we can handle when things change.
How tough is it for you to deal with some of the officers that are on the road, and you know they've got to stop somebody for speeding or something wrong, and they know them? That must be, you know, how do you give your mother a ticket type of thing?
It is, and the officers are very well trained in having to deal with that. And I mean, let's face it, police officers are human beings, so they have latitude and discretion to handle certain situations. But the good thing is, especially in Georgetown, we have very succinct policy, and we have procedures that if an officer is in conflict or an officer feels that they cannot make a decision based on the participants involved, we have supervisory on-call lists that they can deal with. There's always a senior officer on duty that can respond. It's important to have people around to help solve those type of problems, and we have that in place today.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard to make a decision of
absolutely
do I or do I not, because you're too personally involved.
Correct.
Or not you, but whoever it is. Now you have a new office.
I do have a new office.
The whole building has a new look.
It does. When I made lieutenant 4 years ago, I had a mission to try and improve the police department. The police department's not that old. The building was built in 1986, occupied in '88 by the fire department. In '93, we occupied the first floor. The second floor, coming from the basement of town hall. And so, but over the years, with our financial constraints, the building had gone into a bit of disrepair, and that was my vision to get onto the capital improvement committee, get actively involved not only as a resident but as an employee. And today we have a new roof, the building's painted. The officers that work there take much pride in keeping the building clean. They keep the cruisers clean. So when you see the appearance of the police department, the financial commitment has not changed that much, but the commitment from the people who work there, myself included, and I am the leader of that pack, so to speak, and there's pride and ownership. And I think that's what I strive with policy, and that's what we strive as a team with our building. People walk into the building all the time, they say, wow, you have a nice new police station here, and I'm like, it's not new, it's just that we take care of it. Yeah. And the town has been gracious enough to give us the funding to paint it and put a new roof on it, and we put a new septic system in, because those type of enhancements and maintenance plans will keep that building. You know, there is no reason why that building should not last another 20 to 25 years or longer. Or longer. Depending on the size of our community and the size of the police department. The fire department has some challenges in the basement because they have bigger and bigger equipment every year, it seems. My equipment kind of stays the same, but my fire partners have large trucks and so forth, so I think we may have a challenge in that area, but the police department as a whole is in pretty good shape. And you have a new dispatch area. We do. I was involved in that project, obviously, and thanks to some real dedicated officers, we were able to do a substantial upgrade of our communication systems that were more than 25 years old. And we are now state-of-the-art, and we did the project ourselves, basically. A couple of police officers, myself managing the project. We did some of the painting and the renovation, so we saved tens of thousands of dollars by doing that. No project manager. I was a project manager. You're already paying me to be there, so we kind of chipped in and did it. So it looks really nice. Yeah, I saw it when it was in the middle of the confusion. Yes, it took a long time, but we got it done in under a year. And the dispatchers love it, of course. They do. Makes their job easier. And it's modernized, and the nice thing is that with the next generation 911 system coming, we're a PSAP location, a primary point of answering for 911. We'll blend right into that with very, very little issue.
a lot of the training has already gone on for that,
Yes, it
for
has.
the dispatchers.
It has.
I know a couple that have already done that.
Yep.
You mentioned a little bit the police department being in this building. It used to be in the basement,
Yes.
and you'd walk in the front door, and there was a little railing, and there were 2 desks behind the railing
There
with a
was.
little swinging gate, and that was the police department.
That was it.
That was it.
And there was one, and actually I've taken a tour
I
down
think there
there.
was one little cell.
We had one and then a converted, so we had 2.
Okay.
So we were big time. I took a couple of the electrical folks when we did the ESCO project downstairs because I was very familiar with the old section of Town Hall, and it did bring back some memories.
Yeah, I remember I had to go in there when I was in high school for some probably form for my driver's license or something, and I'm like, wow, this is the police department.
And then prior to that, the police department was down where the Pingree Insurance Agency is, in that building there, so.
That's right, the selectman's office was
That's
down
correct.
there too.
And
When
then,
my dad was selectman, that was where it was.
and then when this building was no longer a school, it turned it into the town hall, and they put the police department in the basement. And when we moved out of here in 1993, for me personally, maybe that's why I have such affinity for the building that I'm in today. But I mean, that was an amazing transformation for us.
Yeah.
We went from having no room to all of this room, and having, you know, a certified holding facility and office space to interview people and to work in a garage for the cruisers. So it was a big deal for me. I
Yeah.
thought, you know.
It was. I remember when it was built, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was huge. What do you like the most about your job?
I love to solve problems. I really do. I enjoy being able to dive in and fix something when it's broken. I think I try to do that every day on the PD. I'm definitely a working chief, and I enjoy that part of the job. And I think that, as I said before, in trying to find a legacy or a mission is to try to make the police department as good as it can be, but better than when I took command of it. And I try to do that every day.
Okay. I've interviewed Chief Mulligan,
Yes.
and he was pretty much of the same thought process, because it has to get better every day.
It does.
Otherwise, it's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it takes, you know, everything flows from the top on down. So it's my mission to continue that, and I have to provide that leadership for people so that things do not get stagnant, so that we're continually striving to be the best that we can be. Are we perfect? No, but in comparison to other police departments, and I've traveled down to Quantico, spent 12 weeks with agencies from all over the world. I sit on the accreditation commission, and I've accredited 18 police departments in this area. And just like any coach with a football team, I put this team up against anybody. They're honest, they're smart, they have the highest of integrity, and I enjoy working with them, and I enjoy being their chief.
Now, how many officers do we have in town now?
We have 11 full-time officers and 18 part-time officers.
From the top down. You're the chief.
Mhm.
We have lieutenants.
We have 1 lieutenant. We had 2 lieutenants when I was a lieutenant. I opted not to fill that position. I backfilled the position with a patrolman's position to put more people out on the street. We have 3 sergeants, 1 assigned to each shift. So that's the platoon. If you work the day shift, the early night, or the midnight shift, you have a specific supervisor to report to. The lieutenant sits at the executive officer level. He's second in command. And then all of the patrolmen, I have 2 patrolman positions that are part-time detective positions. So when you see Detective Rodden or Detective Goddu, they're uniformed officers assigned to a shift, but they have a dual role. They are certified detectives. It saves some money, and it spreads out the ability to have 2 people in place versus just the 1. And it's just more cost-effective.
Now, what kind of education do they go through to make these different levels?
Well, there's command school for an officer who would take a command position, sergeant, lieutenant. The FBI offers, obviously, leadership courses. Detectives go through extensive training for evidence collection, interview, and interrogation. And the patrolmen, the training is more diversified today than ever before. A lot of unfunded mandates. People hear me say that a lot at budget meetings. We're required to keep officers certified. It's a complicated society, and it takes a complicated a police officer to handle all those issues. And they have to be certified in anything from, you know, dealing with the elderly to dealing with our youth, relationship issues and restraining orders, and you need, and then never mind the medical part. You know, I mean, they respond to every medical call in Georgetown. Lives have been saved as a result of those officers responding and being the first responders there, because we're lucky enough to have our own ambulance service with a great fire and rescue team. But those police officers are the first ones there. They're out there before the fire department arrives, so they need all of that training. The part-time staff has, we're very lucky with our reserve force. We have full-time firefighters who are police officers, who are paramedics for Georgetown. They bring that training with them. We have a full-time lineman who's a reserve officer. We have folks from the sheriff's department. We have a myriad of disciplines that come along with their police training. But they need the same exact training as a full-time officer, so it gets complicated.
So to apply for part-time, you have to have a degree?
Yes, and your training for the ability to become a reserve officer comes from the Massachusetts Training Council, Training Committee, they're technically called the Training Committee now. And that's a 6-month part-time program that you have to graduate from in order to be able to begin your training as a police officer in a specific jurisdiction. So it can take up to a year. When we have someone who's come and made it through the employment process, before that officer ever is even seen in public, it's about a year's worth of training.
The training that they have to pay for that themselves.
Yes, they do. Well, the part-time academy,
right?
They would have to pay for that themselves, yes. And then once they're hired full-time, we would put them in the academy as an employee of the town.
So they really have to have a good purpose. I mean, they're on a mission. They really want to do this.
Yes, yes, and our reserve force is extremely seasoned. Unlike other jurisdictions, we have reserves that have been there 10 and 15 years, and they have no desire to become a full-time police officer. They've elected to do it on a part-time basis and remain in their career path that they're in today. And then obviously the newest officers that everyone has made comment about, you know, they say the police force looks so young now when I bring them before the Board of Selectmen for appointment. And yes,
I think the same thing.
Yes, they're young because we're getting old. So
who is this teenager at my door?
But they're absolutely wonderful. They're qualified. They're certified. They're educated, and they're just young.
Yeah.
You know, like I used to be.
And I used to be. What are you most proud of since you've come into the position?
I think I'm probably most proud of the fact that I was able to adapt to the role pretty quick. I mean, Chief Mulligan did a good thing to the command staff at the police department. He created a good command staff structure, but also too, he was not afraid to relinquish the authority to myself and the lieutenant and the sergeants. And I think what that does is it allows for any type of transition that can take place to be seamless. And I hope I've taken that transition and made it as seamless as possible. And by all marks, I think that has happened. So I'm proud of that. It has not been a bumpy road since I took over in July.
It's been difficult for many of us, because I've talked to some friends about this, to call you Chief Cudmore.
Yes, a lot of people call me Donnie.
Donnie, which is how I always knew you would say. Donnie Cudmore, you know. So you still answer to that?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
What is the one thing for the future police department that you would like to see happen?
Well, I think in the future, I think that, I mean, for me personally, I mean, obviously I love the town of Georgetown. I've lived here my entire life, just about, except for 6 years in the city of Salem, which I don't even remember. So for me, I'd like to see that we continue the path of supporting town government and town services. I mean, when you look at other communities, we have our own school district, pre-K through 12. We have our own police department, our own fire department, our own ambulance service, and we support all that as a community. So I think the reason why Georgetown is so attractive and the reason why Georgetown is so successful is because of those things. Of course, you know, the budget process is a challenge. Our taxes are a challenge, you know. I sit on one side of the table realizing that the things I'm asking for are going to raise my own taxes too. So, but I think that keeps me in check as well. It keeps me fiscally responsible, and I think that if we as a town continue to do that, we just built a $40 million school, and I think that that will only improve our town. Some of the growth activity that's going on is an improvement for our community, because just like you said, we've grown up here, and Georgetown is a nice community to move to raise your family. It's safe, it's viable, and it's attractive. I mean, you look at some of our surrounding communities, I think Georgetown's the best community in the area myself.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
And it's for all those reasons.
That's right.
The schools, the police, the fire department.
And the town boards, our town boards work tirelessly. I mean, I watch the cable network a lot because I like to stay involved and engaged and knowledgeable of our town. And people don't realize the countless hours that there are volunteer boards out there who are meeting at 7 o'clock till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And all of that is a credit to why Georgetown remains as organized as it has been, and finding dedicated employees and keeping our community as nice as it is today.
And that's one of the ways that you really get to know what's going on in town. I was on the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, for 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, 2 years ago, retired from volunteer service in Georgetown after 49 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people. We have a lot of people on the finance committee like that, and the school committee, and quite a bit.
I try to get people to, I mean, I've actually recruited some folks for boards. I think people sometimes are a bit intimidated to think they're going to serve in a government capacity. But, you know, when you turn 18 years old and you're going to live and commit yourself to a community and you have the ability to serve, I mean, it's baptism by fire. You know, you get on a board and you'll be put right into the front, in the front line, so to speak, and you'll learn.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in serving on the school committee was probably one of the most difficult jobs I had here because it's an extremely complicated process. You know, educating children. You have to leave it to the professionals because I don't educate children, but you assist in the process with the budget and you try to show some type of, at least an opinion for a direction for a particular organization. So I think everybody should serve at one point. I think it's a wonderful chance for you to give back to your community but learn about government because, you know, whether it's the local, state, or federal level, you know, our involvement in government is the government of the people, and you learn by doing that.
Yeah.
And you can learn the budget. You know, it's not a big phenomenon how that budget is put together. It's not that hard to deal with, you know, but it takes vetting, it takes debate, discussion, sometimes argument, wherever you are in that process. And attend town meeting. You know, I've been attending town meeting since I've been a kid.
Yeah.
And
I started attending in high school.
Yeah, whether there's something on the agenda or nothing, you know, I think people should attend. It's where it all happens as far as the approval and appropriation for funding, and that's where you can become knowledgeable too. And as the town moderator, you know, it can be entertaining as well.
It can be very entertaining and exciting. Yeah. Well, now that we have given Georgetown a glowing report,
yes.
Thank you very much for being here, Chief.
Thank you very much.
It's
Thanks
nice to see you in this position.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Beverly Enos. You're watching Spotlight Georgetown. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Go to town meeting. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.